Agent 64 Spies Never Die is a flashback to the good old days of the N64, taking heavy inspiration from the likes of Perfect Dark and GoldenEye. But with so much of its gameplay and style fueled by nostalgia, does its 1997 goodness still hold up in the modern world, or is this another dinosaur that should have stayed extinct? Replicant D6 are set to launch Agent 64 Spies Never Die this week, and with it promising action-packed shootouts and gun-blazing espionage that takes us straight back to the 90s, I was intrigued to see how much I would enjoy it. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't. I don't have any nostalgia for the good old days of the N64, mostly because I was literally a baby, but I wonder if that will help me be objective when it comes to games that rely so much on our fondness for the games we played as children. Will the blocky charm of our low-poly adventures still land? Because, after all, if all you have is nostalgia, then do you really have anything at all? The story is your standard, slightly corny classic Bond affair, without the blatant alcoholism. John Walker, or as I call him, John Bond, a former spy, is attacked by an enemy that he thought was long dead, and sent on a mission to take down a faceless entity known as the Corporation, who are up to some world-shifting mischief. The story is told over a few acts, with each of the 14 missions telling its story in short cutscenes that feature some lovely camp close-ups of the static faces of our characters. With no voice acting, all of the drama is conveyed in simple text bubbles, but it's still dramatic enough that while it may not be the most engaging and detailed story, you at least know what's going on, most of the time, but that is espionage for you. If you've played Perfect Dark, GoldenEye or Time Splitters, you'll know what you're getting here. Even the view models of the weapons, the reload animations and slightly awkward aiming reticle all felt like they'd been transported back to 1997, N64 controller in hand. The variety of low-poly tools in your arsenal feel good, weapons feel punchy, and the NPCs you shoot react and animate in satisfying ways, all of which make the core gameplay of the game fun to play, and have you wanting to come back for more. Though I will say, aside from the very obvious differences between a shotgun and a Tommy gun, the few automatic rifles don't feel particularly different from one another. So if you're looking for lots of variety in your gunplay, you'll not necessarily find it here. Modern shooter fans may also have a few issues with the game in other ways. There is no sprint or crouch mechanic, so if you're wanting to take cover from the guards that are peppering you, you simply have to ram your full body round a corner or behind a pole. Though, move speed is pretty fast, and with the auto-aim, once you get used to how it all works, I think you'll be able to bring some of your best FPS skills to the table. There are several game modes for you to try. There's a standard story mode with different difficulty settings that offer additional objectives based on how hard the difficulty is. Playing it on easy keeps your goals relatively simple, tasking Agent Walker, to essentially reach the end of the level. Unlocking higher difficulty levels adds more challenge and more areas to explore, needing you to disable alarms, shoot cameras, and hack terminals. The whole story can be played alone or in 4-player co-op, both local and online. But there are a few differences there too. If playing alone, you need to collect ciphers to unlock more missions and later acts. These can be gained from completing missions on the Special Agent or Agent 64 difficulty modes and finding the magical masks in each level. If you just complete the levels on the easiest difficulty, you'll not have enough ciphers to continue forward, and with you not being able to complete them at a higher difficulty until you've completed the easier ones, you'll find yourself replaying the missions a few times to be able to move on, which can slow the pacing down ever so slightly, even though these missions can apparently be completed in about 2 minutes if the par times are to be believed. The co-op mode is, I believe, the better way to play. Not only do you get to hang out with your pals, but you also get to move on to the next mission as soon as you've finished one. So there's no need to replay missions unless you fancy adding a bit of challenge in or beating the par times. I do, however, still have a couple of issues with this. Your progress doesn't carry over to your single player game, so if you don't want to play it all again on your Todd, I'm afraid that the 100% completion rate may never happen. Also, and this is perhaps a personal gripe, friendly fire is on and will kill you more than any of the other enemies, especially as some areas are a real squeeze for any more than one player. And with the revive mechanic being, your friend died, so we're going to take a big chunk of your health and give it to them, whether you like it or not, it can feel particularly annoying when you shoot your bestie point blank in the skull instead of the enemies, especially as they can choose which character model to don when going into a mission, and walk around dressed as one of the enemy guards just to mess with you. The levels are interesting enough set pieces, from escaping a large penthouse apartment to breaking out of an evil villain's castle, to infiltrating a snowy military base and spy bunker. Visually, they keep things varied, holding that retro blocky aesthetic you remember, with some modern visual enhancements. The biggest issue I have with the campaign levels themselves is that many of them feel like they were designed as multiplayer maps first, often leaving them to feel large, labyrinthian, and sometimes slightly empty and shallow, which also poses a problem in the multiplayer modes, as often you can feel a little bit lost in the source with such winding maps. There was also a smaller problem that was flagged by your pal and mine, Barely Magic Mike, in that the tutorial pop-ups disappear so quickly and cannot be accessed again, so he didn't realise that in order to use a picked-up keycard, or any of the non-violent tools, you need to equip them with a separate button press, which led him to believe the game is bugged. It's a small problem, yes, but I do think the lack of communication in the game is a genuine issue that may make some gamers turn it off. Additionally, there are arena modes and challenges against bots. Arena allows you to set up a custom lobby either on your own or with friends in a classic deathmatch, capture the briefcase, or zone capture. However, upon initially launching the game, you are limited to one game mode, deathmatch, and only 3 maps, requiring you to complete challenges, essentially preset arena battles, to unlock more options. You start with access to 3 starter league challenges and unlock more as you play through the story. So if you're thinking of getting the game and diving straight into some split screen arena action with friends, I would bear that in mind. Additionally, by beating certain challenges or story missions under a par time, you start to unlock paradox modes. The game contains 70 plus modifiers and cheats that you can enable that can have various effects on the gameplay. The par time for these are strict, so unlocking these will add a bunch of replayability for folks looking for a bit more of a challenge. Having only unlocked a handful of these so far, big fan of the big head mode, can I say, I can imagine a couch co-op party being a lot of fun experimenting with a bunch of these in co-op or arena matches. Other than the fact you have to wait to unlock new areas or modes, the arena games are in general pretty fun, though the bot's AI isn't particularly advanced. To be honest, it's pretty basic in both the arena missions and core story, so we're not fighting highly skilled assassins during Agent 64, which is lucky because if they were too good, we wouldn't be able to beat them and they'd call us an octopussy. Though one thing I do think is very funny is that during one of the challenges, the only female character model, Dana, our daughter, is used to create a slapper bot, an enemy type that just punches the ever-loving shit out of you if you let them get too close. And as I am sure we are all aware, in the UK, a slapper is a mean word about women that my mum calls me whenever I wear a dress that's slightly too short. But I have no idea if the dev is English, so I'm choosing to believe that this is just a coincidence. As I've already mentioned, the game's looks are really pulled straight out of an N64 time machine. But lucky for those of us who like a little less crunch in our visuals, they've been souped up to a nice smooth set of edgy polygons. The arenas, whilst winding, are all distinct from one another, and as you explore more and more of the story, you'll really see how much the dev has poured into making them all stand out. Every inch of this game feels carefully designed to within an inch of its life, and the details are impossible to ignore. The guns, the maps, even the enemies and character models, all of it clearly harks back to the banger FPS games of yesteryear, and the charm oozes out of it, even for a Gen Z gamer like me, with all my modern gaming and high-definition privilege. The sound design is nothing to write home about, but the music is at least a suitably spy-forward soundtrack that does complement John Bond's story nicely. Though occasionally, specifically in boss fights or moments where the tension is high, I would have liked a little more oomph from the music to really sell this thrilling narrative, or at least give us a little indication as to how our characters are feeling, especially with their static faces, make them all all look like they've had too much Botox to convey any emotion. On the Steam Deck, the game worked well in most indoor areas, keeping at 60 FPS and running at the deck's native 800p resolution. Slight drops when outside in some of the bigger levels, with lots of enemies and effects on screen, though this can easily be capped to 60 FPS by dropping a setting or two. For a game going for a retro vibe, this is a little disappointing, but not something that is a huge deal breaker for deck owners. PC players will also have a pretty solid 60 FPS depending on the specs of your PC, of course, but not many moments are so intensive that I think your average gaming PC would struggle. After all, it's just a bunch of polygons. Overall, I enjoyed my time with Agent 64 Spies Never Die, even without having the nostalgia bleeding out of all of the open bullet wounds, of which there were many. Sometimes you could get shot a lot. Sure, it has a few issues, namely how much you have to play in order to access more online content, which I worry isn't clearly marked enough, as some players will assume you've only got a very small selection of modes to choose from. But none of the issues I've flagged today are game-breaking or reasons not to pick this one up. They're perhaps just a few teething issues that will be resolved shortly, which is great because I do think, even aside from N64 fans, there are plenty of gamers who would really enjoy their time with it. It's charming, quirky, and suitably angular, which I think makes for a fantastic time alone or with friends, which is the reason I feel more than comfortable being able to award Agent 64 Spies Never Die with a covert silver genie lamp of approval.
Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel to help us continue to be able to bring a voice to the voiceless. Join the over 60,000 indie warriors that have said goodbye to the gaming echo chamber. For even more support, head over to patreon.com/idreamofindiegames, where you can get Discord access, early shows, exclusive content, and more, now with a brand new $2 entry tier. Or check out YouTube memberships for exclusive badges, custom emoji, and other fun perks. Support real people making real things, because here at I Dream of Indie Games, it's always about the games.